Vollert we have three product pillars. The first one being instant account-to-account payments on global scale. The second one, cash management. And the third one, power tools, which we call a feature set that supports the payment use case and specific vertical use cases. If we look at instant account-to-account, the main differentiator is that we are trying to achieve full global coverage with all the relevant interbank clearing networks. That is already a huge difference to many other players in the payment space who try to do too many things, while we really want to be focused, we want to be real-time in markets, and we want to be real-time cross-border. In the cash management side, the second product pillar that we have, we offer refunds and payouts. We want to be the one-stop shop, the one integration for merchants that want to provide a more holistic solution to the consumers and to the internal teams to operate a payment method, which is basically what open banking is if you do it well on a pan-European scale, so that you can have payments initiation, reconciliation, refunds, payouts, with then additional features that support your payments use case.
What we're trying to achieve here is providing that unified experience across the globe. There's 84 or so countries around the world that are developing real-time account-to-account payments. A lot of the world, or a lot of the companies are focused on Europe and what we call open banking. But in reality, open banking is just what real-time account-to-account payments are called in Europe. And so our vision is a lot wider. I think what's important there is there's the need to offer merchants a unified experience across those markets. And so that means the ability to access those markets through a single point of entry, through one API, and also be able to access standardized reports that give you the same information, but I think crucially reflect the nuances of the local market. So how do you make account-to-account a complete payment method? Yes, it's that feature parity with card, and how you can develop that. And I think that's where our power tools really come to the fore. Which is recognizing and I think being completely honest about the limitations that account-to-account payments can have. And that's why if we think about the circuit breaker tool, how can we optimize for fraud management, or transformer, how can we optimize for adoption? But crucially as well, I think it's how can you piece those different tools together to really create those optimized solutions that can compete with more established solutions in the market.
We see that there is not only an opportunity for us to build cool things, but also merchants coming to us and saying that despite 10 years of fintech innovation and heavy investment, there's not always a great fit for the specific use cases of the merchant in the market. That is why we really invest heavily into building out, for instance, virtual IBANs for many of the marketplaces that are around us, and there are more exciting business models coming out of this. But also, of course, payouts, refunds are close to our heart and the needs of our merchants. We innovate for our merchants, and we really want to make sure that we build these products for scale and for the toughest regulatory and also compliance requirements.
So yeah, when we think about what we're trying to do is we're trying to become the new way that money moves, and obviously pay-ins are only one part of that. And the second half of payouts is equally important. And it's important, I think, to split that between payouts to consumers, and that's where you can see things that go, across different industries. Payouts from an investment platform, you can't expect the same adoption in different markets. Some markets, like the UK, for instance, is historically a very card-driven market, but other markets, like particularly Germany, the rest of the DACH region, also the Netherlands, are far more accustomed to account-to-account payments. I think there's also another angle which is really important, which is the vertical lens as well. Even in those card-centric markets, perhaps like the UK, where you are replacing particularly manual bank transfer, it's a very adjacent move to a consumer. And there's a really strong value prop for them to automate a process that is already very cumbersome, where they're having to type in reference codes, names, bank details, certainly things that they won't have to hand. And so when you layer on those two things, you can get a sense of what a merchant can expect in terms of consumer adoption. I think as well, a trend that we're certainly starting to see, particularly with younger generations, is a move towards debit payments. and a move to pay with money that they have. And particularly with the younger generation of Gen Z, over 50% of them actually prefer to pay by debit. So I think even in those card markets, it's very easy, I think, to be overly focused on points and overly focused on the rewards, when the reality is those benefits are certainly skewed to a smaller portion of the market than people might expect. Consumers now are changing their behaviour to kind of recognise the security benefits of actually paying via your bank rather than a card, rather than initially perhaps being a bit apprehensive because it was something new.
It's a new generation of consumers. They're not attached to their cards. And you see this across many markets, not only the UK, but also the continental Europe, where consumers move away from more legacy banks, I would say, right? So to more neobanks. And the experience from a card payment to an open banking payment is quite identical, because the authorization experience from 3D Secure and SCA is identical. While actually open banking then has the advantage that you don't need a card, you don't need to remember the card, you don't need to enter details. You just select your bank, you go to the bank and you get the job done, right? You authorize your payments. So the consumer experience is much, much easier, much simpler, much faster. Many of the conversations we have with our merchants are really centered around how can we incentivize the consumer to get used to open banking and to consciously opt into open banking. Every market where account to account is done well, it always surpasses cards. It always is the preferred payment method.